Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for another of our Friday mornings live and leadership experience. If you're there, come on in. Come on in. We invite you to come on in and join us, whether you're joining us from LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. We do invite you to come on and join us. Please remember to drop your comments and questions in the chat as we go along. This is where we are each Friday morning, 8 a.m., where we have those conversations. I am Dr. Janice Brooks. I am a leadership consultant, part of the Maxwell team. I am also a life strategist and a pastoral counselor. With me, as usual, is Dr. Sigfred Howell, my co-host. He is a master life coach. He's a relationship and leadership coach and consultant. And we are here again this Friday morning to talk about another important topic, which is so relevant to both our life and our leadership. The topic that we will be talking about this morning is wow. We'll be talking about achieving the balance between ambition and well being. Achieving the balance between ambition and well being. And let me just start off by saying that as people in general, and more so leaders, we often find ourselves pushing for success, setting goals, striving for progress. But in the midst of all of that ambition, it is easy to lose sight of the very thing that makes us effective in the first place. And I would say the very things, which is our health, happiness, and our well being. So this is what we're going to be talking about this morning. How do we stay driven and goal oriented without burning out? How do we manage the tension between chasing excellence and taking care of ourselves? So in this episode, we are going to, myself and Dr. Howell, we're going to be breaking down some practical ways that we can navigate this balance, discuss the signs of burnout that many leaders sometimes overlook or we overlook in our personal lives. And we will highlight how embracing well being can actually amplify our success, not diminish it. And so that's what we will be talking about. So, whether you are a seasoned leader or you're just managing your own life, this session is for you. So, here what? Grab your cup of coffee and let's dive into this crucial conversation that we're having here this morning, which is really finding harmony between ambition and well being. Dr. Howell, morning again, and thank
Good
you
morning.
so much for being here each Friday morning at this time for us to just share with our audience and help them to learn and to grow. Dr. Howell, take it away. When we talk about finding balance, um, and achieving that balance, as a matter of fact, because sometimes we can find something, but we can't achieve it. So, achieving balance between ambition and well being, what do you think we are really telling our audience this morning?
If you want to go back to the Bible talks about temperance. Temperance is having balance with everything, and so there's a concept that I came across a few years back. I don't remember the author of this concept, but it's called the 888 principle or 888 rule or 888 model. So basically, what it says is 8 hours of rest, whether it's sleeping, relaxing, unplugging, and then 8 hours of working. And I'm going to put that in quotations, 8 hours of working. And then after that is 8 hours with family, friends, and self-development. Now let's jump back to the 8 hours of working. 8 hours of working, think about it. Most leaders work more than 8 hours. Some people pride themselves as having 14 and 16 and 18-hour days. But the research is showing that the more fatigued you are, the less efficient you become. And so you think that putting in 14 hours is actually you being a hard worker. But in actuality, how much are you getting done past the 8-hour mark? Do you find yourself forgetting a lot? Do you find yourself being less efficient? Do you find yourself in a lot of mood swings? And so if you practice that 8-8-8 concept, you can be more productive. You can be more temperate. Now, some of the signs that you look for as a leader, if you're pushing yourself too far past that 8-hour mark, is chronic fatigue. If you wake up in the morning and you're tired and your day hasn't started yet, if you get headaches and anxiety on your way to work, if you see that your productivity is dropping, if you see that you're snapping at coworkers or subordinates and you just don't like the job that you used to get up and jump to work, feet first, head first, and if you don't have that passion anymore, these are all signs that something is happening. Irritability, mood swings, disconnection from family and friends. If you're working so hard that you no longer have time and energy for family and friends or even self-development and self-care, these are all signs that you're pushing the boundaries of work and you need to get it back into realignment.
Wow, Dr. Howell, you have actually said a lot. You actually went into my second question, because I was going to ask, when we get to understand what this balance means, then we want to know, how can we identify when we are out of balance? And you have really talked about quite a few of them. And I just want to add to what you have just said, because I do believe that there are physical symptoms and there are emotional distress symptoms. And I want to break them down as a counselor in those two parts, the emotional distress symptoms and the physical symptoms. Because, many of us, and I'm not just going to say leaders, I'm going to say many of us will experience things like fatigue, and our sleep is disrupted, which is like disrupted sleep patterns, frequent headaches. Those and others fall under the symptoms that are clearly physical symptoms. And these are signs of stress that is taking toll on the body. I'm not saying that somebody cannot have a headache here and there, or they cannot feel a little fatigue here and there because they have not been taking their vitamins, or they're not been doing their exercises or things like those. But when it becomes a pattern, then it is something that has to be given attention. Then we talk about the emotional distress pattern, distress symptoms. And this is where you feel constantly anxious. You feel frustrated. And I remember last Tuesday on the Fireside Chat, we talked about the emotional resilience and some of these signs. And you feel emotionally drained. It could be a sign that the pressure of ambition is too overwhelming, because many a times this is what we're talking about. How can we balance ambition and well-being? And there might also be overwhelmed because of the task. Sometimes it's not the large task. Sometimes it's just the minute task that would cause the distress. Too much of one thing, just keep going around and going around. It causes that kind of distress. And Dr. Howell, you as a relationship expert would also know that this pushes into diminished relationships, where you begin to withdraw from your colleagues, your friends, your family, and it's all about your ambition. And so it goes into what we call social isolation, where there is a signal that you're sacrificing your personal life for your goals. So I wanted to mention some of those. I could go into others, like the loss of motivation and decline in your performance. And just being unable to disconnect. And I really want to talk about this one for a minute, Dr. Howell, before I ask you the next question, because the inability to disconnect, unplugging the computer, putting aside the phone, turning the television off, not being at every function, not being on the social media. All of these are disconnecting so that you can actually get a little bit of time to really connect with yourself. And that is what we're talking about today. How you can balance your ambition with your well-being. Dr. Howell, I want to move on to the next question, and I want you to take away this one, because now that we have talked about that one, we have many high-pressure environments, and we see them all around us. But how can leaders, and sometimes high-pressure environment is actually in our homes too, how can we encourage teams, if you're a leader, or in your homes, encourage your family to prioritize well-being without sacrificing performance or the results that we're expecting?
That is a very loaded question. If you look at shows like lawyer shows and police shows and even shows where they're scientists, a lot of these people are single, divorced, and they even joke about being married to the job. You know, and so there's certain professions that we expect people to have failed relationships. And to me, that is a negative outlook on some professions. And so if you are in one of those high demand careers and you are a leader, or you are now starting out, I would suggest as a leader, you lead by example. You tell people some of the pitfalls that you came across and some of the things to look out for. So for example, if you see someone going down the same road you went down and having the same struggles you had earlier on, you tell them, hey, you have to make a decision about, are you going to have a traditional family, or are you going to be married to the job? Because if you're married to the job, yes, you will be successful, but this is what you're going to have to give up in the process. And so lead by example, and also be transparent and let people know what it entails. Okay, what are your plans for the future? Okay, if you want to be CEO at the youngest possible age, then these are some of the things you're going to have to give up. Are you okay with that? And check in with them along the way. So leading by example, mentorship, letting them know, okay, you've passed the first checkpoint. Are you sure this is still what you want? Okay, here's where we're going to next. And this is what is going to cost you or require of you. Are you sure you're willing to pay that cost? Because everything has a cost. Relationships have a cost. Leadership has a cost. Working has a cost. Everything has a cost. And sometimes the cost is physical. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's social. Sometimes it's spiritual. And sometimes it's a combination or an amalgamation of all the above. And so you have to know what it is that you're going to be giving up. And then implement a supportive culture where you have people around you that can catch you before you fall. Oh, yes, I had that problem. He's about to hit that pitfall right there. Let me step in and share with him what he might be encountering in a week or 2 weeks, so we can preempt that catastrophe. You know, so have a supportive culture with mentorship and leadership and training, and then implement flexible work practices. A lot of these tech companies, Google is one of the main ones, and Amazon used to do it too. Not the Amazon warehouses, but the Amazon corporate, where they had flexible work environments where people can exercise at any point in time. They didn't have traditional offices. They had like big areas where people can sit and stretch out and do lots of different things. And so it was a practical environment that stimulated creativity, relaxation, well-being, and all that. And then recognize achievements. There's some people that work hard because they want to be acknowledged. They want to be seen. And they will continue to work until they get that acknowledgement, even if they are going to suffer burnout. And so if you recognize the small incremental milestones that have been reached by your subordinates, that can help to quell some of the anxiety of being recognized and being seen, and as people try to go up that ladder of success. And so those are just a few things that you can look at that will help people as your subordinates see what is expected of them, what are some of the pitfalls, and how to avoid some of those problems that might come with certain careers along the way.
You are on point, Dr. Howell. I don't know if I can add anything else to that, but
you always have a lot to add.
The only thing I want to say, and this is just simple, is normalize taking breaks. I have so many personal experiences because coming up in my career, different career fields, I was always pushing for the top. I had break at my desk. I literally had lunch at my desk. I am the first one in. I was like FIFO, FILO, which is first one in, last one out. Every day to work. I'm the first one to get to work before the branch open. I'm the last one to get out. There is no break, no lunch time, no nothing. But we have to recognize, and that in that quest to get to the top, in that quest to reach success, we have to take breaks. And that is why, Dr. Howell, my book is coming out and it's called The Power of a Pause. Because we have to take pauses. Somewhere along the line, we must take pauses. You talked about lead by example, and I believe that it's such a critical one. Sometimes we have the team going, and we are just sitting and watching. Sometimes it's the other way around too. We are sitting and watching, and we are dictating to them what to do, and we are just not doing anything. And this is where the open communication comes in, Dr. Howell. We have to have that open communication where we can address any signs of or issues of burnout or anything that affect performance. We have to be able to really address those. And addressing them means that we're going to set realistic expectations and realistic goals. You talk about that support. That support is so important. One of the things I like with most corporate companies is that they have some kind of coach or counselor that you can go to and speak with. But I do not believe it should get to the place where you have to go to see a counselor or coach. Counselor or coach is important, but not from the standpoint where you are so pressed that you have to go to see a counselor because you're on the brink of falling over, in other words. So all of those things that we talk about, that you talk about here this morning, Dr. Holt, those are really significant. The final one I want to add to what you say is to try to adjust and monitor the workload, whether in the home or not. There are many stay-home moms and our stay-home dads. You have to be able to monitor and adjust the workload. You might have a schedule set that says, I'm going to wash on Monday, clean on Tuesday, do that. But if it becomes too overwhelming and you're being overburdened, then you have to make sure that you adjust that workload. And it's the same thing in the workplace with leaders. Not because these 5 things must be done today. If the team is overburdened, you have to be able to adjust that workload. So Dr. Howell brings me to the next question. Because in being able to do all of this, a leader has to be vulnerable. So what role does vulnerability plays in helping leaders to manage their own well-being and also the well-being of others?
Well, as I said in the last question, you have to lead by example. That's the first thing. Because if you're a new hire, depending on your mindset, depending on your social, what they will call brought up, in some places, how you are brought up basically will determine a lot of times how you will approach a new job. Some people go into the job head and feet first, and they hit the ground running, and they want to show everyone what they're made of. Some people want to lay back and see how the culture works, and they get in where they fit in type of situation. And so as a leader, you need to lead by example so people can see what true work looks like. And then some leaders have some good techniques and ideas and concepts that can push the whole momentum of the team forward. But when people see that you're willing to get your hands dirty, when they see that you're willing to step in when times are hard, and you're not just sitting up in your office barking and screaming commands at people, but you are hands off when it comes to actually getting the work done. That, to me, is what true authenticity looks like. So when you're authentic with your leadership, when you're authentic and you show people, hey, I'm willing to get in there and do some of the work. I'm willing to be right there beside you, or I'm right in front of you, leading you forward, letting you know every step of the way what comes next. That is what people want to see. But then people also want to see that you're empathetic. When I'm not working at 100%, are you going to have a helping ear right there, or listening there? Hey, what's up? I noticed that your productivity is down a little. Is there something I can do to help out? I know this job can be a little taxing. Do you need a mentor? Do you need someone to kind of help you get through this particular assignment or this particular project? I'm just looking out for you, and don't do it from a threatening standpoint. There are a lot of companies that when they see productivity down, they threaten the subordinates. And so it's a stressful situation, and stress leads to a lot of accidents. Stress leads to a lot of mistakes. Stress leads to a lot of hurt individuals. And there's certain companies that are known for low stress environments, even though it's high paced and high demand. There's certain countries that are known for high love for their jobs. And there are a lot of European countries. Unfortunately, in North America, we don't have a lot of that. And some people joke at the Canadians because they're kind of low and chill type individuals when compared to Americans. But maybe we can learn something from that low, slower pace, low attitude type environment that some of these European countries or northern neighbors might express, because maybe we will have more job satisfaction, and maybe we will have more people willing to do what they need to do. And then, as you were saying, you're the first in and the last out. Well, suppose I'm more efficient and I can get my job done faster. Am I giving other people's workload because they work slower than me? So now I'm being punished for being efficient. So now a lot of times you find that your efficient people get burnt out because they are overtaxed and overburdened with the jobs of other people, because they get stuff done early. So what that does now, it creates an environment where people work slower and get less done, just so they don't have to do the job of someone else. So how can we role model some of these things to make sure that we're not stressing people out and we're not burdening our efficient people with the workload of inefficient people? And so what happens is you might have your efficient people staying later because they have to finish up the job that someone else did not do.
That's a point right there.
And so you have to look at that to make sure that your good people do not get burnt out. And there's a law called Price's Law that says that 10% of your company, of your workers, will do 50% of the work. And a lot of times that 10% gets overtaxed and overburdened with the 90% of the people that do the 50% of what's left. Now, here's the kicker, and I'm going to end on this point. The first people to leave your organization are those 10%. because they have the most options, because they're the most efficient, they're the most educated, they're the most skilled, they're most creative, and they're the ones that leave at the first time that they get burnt out because they have more options. So don't burn out your good people, because you're going to be left with 90% of people doing only 50% of the work.
Wow. That's it. Those are some excellent points, Dr. Howell. I like that point that you talked about, that percentage. 90% of the people doing only 50% of the work. And
that's across the board in every segment of society.
Wow. That is something to really think about. As we come down to the end of our session today, we are here talking about achieving balance between your success or your ambition and your well-being. And this is a topic that we all need to talk about, especially in a time like this, where we have thousands and thousands of persons being laid off. We're going to have people entering the workforce in droves, let me call it that. And there are going to be people who are going to be willing to do more in order to hold a job, in order to be recognized. So this is what we want to talk about today, or this is what we're talking about. So as we come to the last question, we never want to leave without giving our audience strategies that they can use to help them along the way to balance their life and their well-being. And I'm just going to give 3 or 4, Dr. Howell, and then you can just take away the rest of it. Okay. Because I believe that strategies are the foundation to life. But you can get a strategy, and if you don't use it, then it has absolutely no use to you. So when we give you a strategy, we ask you to use it. The one I talked about earlier, simple. Set realistic and sustainable goals. Take your breaks. Manage those goals that you have set so that they become less overwhelming and progress is measurable without you being burnt out. Then prioritize time management. We can't talk about that enough. Use whatever tools you can, whether it's a calendar, a task management app, whether it's blocking your time, you have your time blocking techniques. But remember to set aside time for relaxation and have some boundaries set so that you can separate professional time from personal time. This one is critical because many times we can't separate personal time from professional time. We're always doing something for work. Dr. Howell talked earlier about the 888. Avoid multitasking. Multitasking is a killer, and it can really lead us to mental fatigue. If we are not careful, multitasking will push us into stress, anxiety, and at a place where it becomes dark. If you're leading a team, learn to delegate. I'm going to say that again. If you're leading a team, learn to delegate. You don't have to do everything. And the last one I'm going to leave here is do some physical activity. Do some type of physical activity, whether it's inside or outside. Do your daily exercises, whether it's your run, whether it's yoga, whether you go to the gym. All of these. And practice mindfulness, stress management, whatever it is that will improve your clarity and your focus and will reduce anxiety and prevent emotional distress and exhaustion. Make sure that you build this into your time, your personal time, not your professional time, your personal time, so you know that you can take this time for yourself. And finally, coaching and mentorship is significant. It's very important. Having someone to talk with who can provide you with the needed advice and the perspective and the guidance. This can really help you and can really help all of us. Many times I have to call someone and listen because I need someone to say something to me. Sometimes I know, but I need you to say something to me. Offer practical strategies for managing both your personal and your professional life. Sometimes it's just a sounding board that you need for difficult decisions, and just a different perspective on something that is on your heart or on your mind. So those are some of the ways, some of the strategies. And don't forget, before I hand over to Dr. Howell, self-compassion. Self-compassion is very important. Don't forget to treat yourself with compassion. We give it to everybody. As somebody calls us and say, I'm so sorry about that. We tell them. But what do we tell ourselves? When everything is coming down on us? Do we give ourselves some grace, some compassion? Those are critical points to consider, Dr. Howell, and strategies. You take it away. What other strategies would you add?
I don't know if there's anything left. Yeah, you did a good job covering those. I started with the 888 rule and the 888 concept or model, whatever you want to call it. But they're only 24 hours in a day. So if you're going to work more than 8 hours in a day, just know that time is going to come out of your sleep time, family time, self-care time, exercise time, self-development time. There's no other way for it to come out of than in one of those two other areas. So are you willing to sacrifice sleep? And I know sometimes you have to work a little longer than usual, but it should never be the norm. And so be willing to self-regulate and be willing to self-reflect. If you take a habit or make a habit of reflecting weekly, how did I manage my time each day this week? Did I get my 8 hours sleep? Did I only work for 8 hours? Did I spend enough time with myself, with my family, or with my friends? Because we know that if we die today or tomorrow, they will replace us in the jobs. And so the people that are left holding the bag when you're gone are your family and your friends. So what are you doing to make sure that you leave a legacy that will last? The memories that you leave with people. What have you shared with the world? What have you shared with your friends? What have you shared with your family? And so for me, the best strategy is trying to strictly adhere to the 888 rule, trying to self-reflect and self-regulate. And then last but not least, as you said, get help. And help can be the form of friends that have your back and say, hey, you know what? You pushed it a little too hard. You need to spend some time with yourself. Number two, even the psychiatrist needs a psychiatrist. If everyone is dumping on you all day long as a leader, because you're going to get the brunt of everything as a leader. And that's what comes with the role. There's a lot of mental and emotional and physical fatigue that goes with being a leader. So do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? Do you have someone that you can offload on to help you with the mental and spiritual part? And last but not least, time to meditate and exercise to make sure that the physical routine takes care of the mental and the spiritual part of your life. All part of that 888 rule.
Wow. Dr. Howell, I think that you have brought it home perfectly.
Thank you.
So this is it. Today we talked about achieving that balance between ambition and your well-being. And we have given practical strategies, how whether you're a leader or you're leading your own life, whether you're a leader in the workplace or you're leading your own life, you can protect your mental health while still pursuing your ambitions and your goals. And one of the key, which is really the main key, is to recognize that well-being and high performance are not mutually exclusive. In fact, by prioritizing your mental health, you will be better equipped to achieve your long-term goals and success. And I want to repeat that. These two, mental health and high performance are not mutually exclusive. The fact is, when you prioritize your mental health, you will be able to achieve not just your short-term goals, your long-term success, and be able to navigate the pressures that come with leadership. Balance your self-awareness and continue to do that ongoing self-care. These are essential for both your personal and your professional well-being. Never forget that. It's a balance. And sometimes we talk about balances cannot be achieved. Yes, it can be achieved. You can work at it, you can aim for it, and eventually you will reach it. Small steps, big results. Dr. Howell, your final words.
You've covered it all. You said it all. Look, listen, just take care of your physical so that you can take care of your emotional, which will take care of your professional and your spiritual. So you just take care of yourself and everything else will fall into line using the 8-8-8 rule.
Thank you so much, Dr. Howell. Once again, to our audience, if you are watching the replay of this session, we want you to go ahead and put #replay. If you were here with us, please drop a comment in the chat so we know that you were here with us. It's Friday morning Life and Leadership Experience. We are glad that you have spent another Friday morning connecting with us for another episode. As usual, it's yours truly, Dr. Janice Brooks, leadership consultant, life strategist, and pastoral counselor. I come from SAS Solutions, a registered company in the state of Florida, Fort Lauderdale, where we do leadership consulting, we do life coaching, we do management training, and we do business consulting. Also with me, as always, my able co-host, Dr. Siegfried Howell. He is joining us from the great state of Delaware. His company is MEI Coaching and Consulting, and Dr. Siegfried Howell LLC. He's a master life coach, the best in relationship consulting, and he's a leadership coach and consultant as well. You will be able to find Dr. Howell on any of the social media. Once you type in Dr. Siegfried Howell, he is also the author of numerous books. And you will be able to get help from him in any area. You'll be able to find me as Dr. Janice Brooks on any of the social medias, also on my website, which is drjanicebrooks.com. Thank you so much again for joining us for another week. God bless you. And remember, take care of yourself. You got this, and you can go forth and prosper. God bless you.
Bye, everyone.